Hello, 5-1 Orange Group. Mr. Waterman here with today's language arts lesson. It is Thursday, February 3rd, 2022. Why is this so blurred? All right, that's a bit better. Okay, so the other day we started a new unit comparing with good. We started with that on page 153, and we learned that in comparisons, the adjective good has an irregular form. Better and best are the irregular forms of good. We also learned to use better to compare two people, two places, or two things, and to use best to compare more than two. For the directions for the activity, we had to read each sentence, and if the form of the adjective was correct, we had to write correct on the line. If it was wrong, we had to circle it and write the correct form. So we did numbers 1 and 2 together. We're going to pick up on number 3. Many tourists think that Sosua Bay is the bestest part of the República Dominicana. Bestest is incorrect. It should be best. 4. Some people thought that one plan was best than the other. Best is incorrect. We should use better. Remember, the key word for using better is than. That's how you know you are comparing two people, two places, or two things. Number 5. Mommy thought that Ana Rosa's story was the best story that she had ever heard. This is correct. Usually when we use best, you'll see phrases such as in the world or have ever. Okay? Number 6. Seeing a whale is even gooder than seeing a sea monster. It's not gooder, it's better. 7. The sea monster went to the bestest underwater fiesta in the world. Bestest is incorrect. It should be best. 8. Writing a story was better than putting up a billboard. This is correct. Okay? The key word is than. You're comparing two things. 9. Mommy is the goodest cook in town. It should be best. 10. Ana Rosa thinks her gree tree is the better spot for looking around. It should be best. Okay? Once you have checked all of your answers, please turn to page 154. On page 154, we were comparing with bad. We learned that in comparisons, the adjective bad has an irregular form. Worse and worst are the irregular forms of bad. We learned to use worse to compare two people, two places, or two things. We learned to use worst to compare more than two. For the directions, we needed to rewrite each sentence, correcting the form of bad where necessary. Okay, so we did numbers 1 and 2 together. Let's look at 3. Wario thinks that sitting in a gree tree is the worser way to spend time. It should be, Wario thinks that sitting in a gree-gree tree is the worst way to spend time. 4. Roberto complained that washing dishes was a worse chore than sweeping. We are comparing two things. So it should be, Roberto complained that washing dishes was a worse chore than sweeping. 5. Spring is a worse time than winter for whales to migrate. We are comparing two things. The hint is the word than. It should be, spring is a worse time than winter for whales to migrate. 6. Spotting the sea monster was not the worst thing that happened that day. This should be worst. Spotting the sea monster was not the worst thing that happened that day. 7. Roberto was a worser domino player than Poppy. It should be, Roberto was a worse domino player than Poppy. We are comparing two. Number 8. Ana Rosa had a worse time at the gathering than her neighbors. We are comparing two again. There's the word than. Ana Rosa had a worse time at the gathering than her neighbors. After you have checked your answers, please turn to page 155 for today's activity. Please listen and read along as I read the point. In comparisons, the adjectives good and bad have irregular forms. Better and best are the irregular forms of good. Worse and worst are the irregular forms of bad. For the activity, it says to read the paragraphs. Circle any errors. Rewrite each paragraph correctly in the spaces provided. Ana Rosa knew that her gree-gree tree was the bestest perch in all of Sosua Bay. She climbed her tree almost every day, but thought that sunny days were gooder than gloomy ones. Ana Rosa had her goodest ideas for stories when she was in the gree-gree tree. She was always in a more better mood after sitting in her tree. Let's do one sentence together. Ana Rosa knew that her gree-gree tree was the bestest perch in all of Sosua Bay. Bestest is incorrect. That should be best. Before you start writing your paragraphs, remember to indent.